Picture this scenario. You're sitting in your dream office. Corner desk, great view, fancy coffee machine down the hall. You worked 7 years to get here. You beat out 200 other candidates. Your parents are proud, your friends are jealous. You finally made it to that job you wanted since college. Your salary? $95,000 a year. Not bad, right? Here's the problem. After taxes, insurance, retirement contributions, and all the other deductions, you're taking home about $5,400 a month. Sounds pretty good until you realize something disturbing. Your rent for that apartment close to the office? $2,200. Your car payment for the reliable vehicle you need for work? $550. Your professional wardrobe, because you can't show up to client meetings in old jeans? About $200 a month when averaged out. Lunches near the office because you don't have time to meal prep? Another $300. Gas, insurance, phone, utilities, student loans, and suddenly you're looking at maybe $1,500 left over. You know what's really messed up? Your friend Sarah makes $52,000 working remotely from a small town in Idaho. After her lower taxes and way cheaper rent, she's taking home about $3,200 a month. Her rent? $800. No car payment because she bikes everywhere. No professional wardrobe, she meal preps on Sundays. Her leftover money after expenses? Also about $1,500. You make 80% more than Sarah on paper, but you're equally broke at the end of every month. My name is Ben, and I've spent the last 3 years researching why the jobs we dream about are often the ones that trap us financially. And if you've ever wondered why you feel poorer now than when you made less money, or why your impressive salary doesn't translate to actual wealth, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about career success. Here's something nobody tells you when you're climbing the career ladder. Every step up comes with invisible chains. Economists call this the income trap, but I call it something more accurate, the golden handcuffs. Let me break down exactly how this works with real numbers, because this is where things get genuinely disturbing. When you made $45,000 right out of college, you probably lived pretty simply, right? Roommates, cheap apartment, maybe took the bus sometimes. Your expenses were low because your income was low. You were actually in a state economists call high financial mobility. You could quit your job tomorrow, move to another city, switch careers, take a risk. The financial penalty was minimal. Fast forward to now, you're making $95,000. But here's what happened along the way. You got that first promotion to $60,000, so you moved to a nicer place. Just a small upgrade, nothing crazy, but rent went from $800 to $1,200. Then you got bumped to $75,000, and you thought, I can finally afford a decent car. Monthly payment went from $0 to $400. Another promotion to $90,000, and suddenly you're living in a neighborhood where everyone dresses well, eats out frequently, and takes nice vacations. You don't even realize it's happening, but your baseline expenses just keep rising in lockstep with your income. Here's the disturbing part. A 2022 analysis by the Federal Reserve found that for every $10,000 increase in salary, average fixed expenses rise by approximately $7,200. Think about that math. You're only actually keeping 28% of your raises after lifestyle creep takes its cut. But it gets worse. Those expenses aren't just bigger, they're stickier. That nice apartment, you signed a year lease. That car payment, you're locked in for 5 years. That neighborhood with the good schools because you're thinking about the future? Try downgrading now and watch your social circle implode. You've built a financial prison where the bars are made of your own success. And here's the really twisted part. According to research from the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business, professionals earning between $80,000 and $120,000 report feeling more financially trapped than those earning $45,000 to $60,000. The higher earners have more to lose, more payments to maintain, more expectations to uphold. They're running faster just to stay in the same place. You're not richer than you used to be. You're just more expensive to maintain. Now let's talk about something that's going to make you angry. The geographic premium scam. This is where companies have pulled off one of the greatest financial tricks in modern employment. They concentrate high-paying jobs in expensive cities, then act like they're doing you a favor. Here's the numbers, and I want you to really pay attention because this is important. According to 2024 data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average marketing manager in San Francisco makes $127,000. Sounds amazing, right? The average marketing manager in Austin, Texas makes $89,000. San Francisco pays 43% more. But here's what they don't tell you. The median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco is $3,200. In Austin, it's $1,400. Right there, San Francisco workers are paying an extra $21,600 per year just for housing. That wipes out more than half of the salary difference. But wait, there's more. California's state income tax? Up to 13.3%. Texas, zero state income tax. On a $127,000 salary, that's another $10,000 plus gone. Food costs in San Francisco run about 25% higher. Transportation costs about 40% more if you have a car, though many people skip the car and pay for ride shares, which ends up costing similar amounts. When you actually run the math, the $127,000 job in San Francisco leaves you with less disposable income than the $89,000 job in Austin, Texas. But the San Francisco job sounds more impressive at parties, so we keep taking it. A 2023 study by Smart Asset analyzed the real purchasing power of salaries across 76 major U.S. cities. They found that a $100,000 salary in San Francisco has the same purchasing power as $36,000 in Memphis, Tennessee. Read that again. Your six-figure salary in a major city is equivalent to barely above minimum wage in a low-cost area when you factor in real expenses. But here's where this gets really insidious. Companies know this. They absolutely know this. They've done the math. They're not paying you more in expensive cities because you deserve it or because you're more valuable. They're paying you more because they have to, or you literally couldn't afford to live there and work for them. It's not a premium. It's a penalty you're paying for the privilege of working in their preferred location. And the truly messed up part is that many of these jobs could be done remotely. We proved that during the pandemic. But companies keep calling people back to expensive offices in expensive cities because it serves their interests, not yours. They get the network effects of having everyone in one place. You get the financial burden. Let me tell you about something I call the prestige tax. It's the hidden cost of working for a brand-name company or having an impressive job title. You know how everyone wants to work at Google, Apple, Goldman Sachs, McKinsey, or other prestigious firms? There's a reason for that. These companies are brilliant at marketing themselves. They create a perception that working there is the ultimate achievement, that having their logo on your LinkedIn is worth its weight in gold. And they're absolutely right about one thing. It does open doors. But here's what they don't mention in the recruitment brochure. Prestige companies can pay you less than market rate because the brand itself is part of your compensation. I'm dead serious. A 2021 analysis of tech industry salaries found that employees at brand-name companies accepted compensation packages that were, on average, 15 to 20% below what they could earn at less prestigious competitors. Why? Because of perceived future value. The thinking goes, I'll take less now to have this name on my resume, then I'll cash in later. Sometimes that works, but often it doesn't, because you know what happens? You get used to the prestige. You get used to saying, I work at Google at parties and watching people's eyes light up. You get used to the free lunches and the nice office and the swag. And when you think about leaving for a company that would pay you $30,000 more, you hesitate because they're not as impressive. The prestige becomes its own golden handcuff. But here's where this gets really interesting. I talked to a guy named Marcus who worked at McKinsey for 6 years. Prestigious consulting firm, looks amazing on a resume. He was making $165,000 in year 6. Long hours, constant travel, high stress, but hey, he was a McKinsey consultant. Then he left to work at a mid-sized manufacturing company as an internal strategy director. No one's ever heard of this company. It's not impressive at parties. His friends thought he was crazy. His starting salary? $180,000. But here's the kicker. He works 45 hours a week instead of 70. He travels twice a month instead of twice a week. He's home for dinner with his kids. When you calculate his hourly rate, he went from making about $55 an hour at McKinsey to $82 an hour at the no-name company. He's making 50% more per hour worked, has better work-life balance, and is building wealth faster. But it took him 6 years to realize that the McKinsey brand on his resume, while valuable, wasn't valuable enough to justify the financial and personal cost. The prestige tax is real, and it's expensive. Companies with strong brands extract value from their employees by paying them partially in reputation instead of cash. And we accept it because we've been conditioned to value status over substance.
Now let's talk about something that sneaks up on high earners and is genuinely terrifying when you realize it's happened to you. I call it the specialization trap. You start your career as a generalist. You're willing to do lots of different things. But as you move up and earn more, you become more specialized. You become the expert in one specific thing. And that expertise is what commands the high salary. Sounds good, right? Become an expert, earn more money. That's the advice everyone gives. Here's the problem. The more specialized you become, the fewer jobs you're qualified for. Your market value goes up within a very narrow field, but your overall career flexibility goes down dramatically. Let me give you a real example. I know someone named Jennifer who became a specialist in regulatory compliance for pharmaceutical companies. She's incredibly good at it. She makes $156,000 a year. She's one of maybe 200 people in the country who do exactly what she does at her level. Sounds great until you realize that there are only about 50 companies in the US that need someone with her exact skill set. She's geographically limited because these companies are only in certain cities. She can't easily transition to another industry because her expertise is so specific. When her company went through layoffs, it took her 14 months to find another position at her salary level. 14 months! Meanwhile, her friend, who makes $78,000 as a general project manager, found a new job in 6 weeks because project managers are needed everywhere. Jennifer's specialized skill that earned her a high salary also made her incredibly vulnerable. She's what economists call occupationally immobile. She's trapped by her own expertise. Here's the data that should worry anyone on a specialized career track. Research from the Brookings Institution found that workers in highly specialized roles, defined as positions requiring very specific technical knowledge in narrow fields, experience unemployment periods that are on average 2.7 times longer than generalists when they lose their jobs, and they're 40% more likely to have to accept a pay cut when they do find new work. The specialization trap is particularly vicious because it's sold to us as success. Become an expert in your field, develop a niche, be the go-to person for X. All of that increases your value to your current employer, but it decreases your value in the broader job market. You've optimized yourself for one specific economic environment, and if that environment changes, you're in trouble. All right, let's talk about something that really grinds my gears, the benefits illusion. This is where companies trick you into thinking you're getting more than you actually are. You know how job postings always list competitive salary and benefits package? Let's decode what that actually means. Let's say you're offered a job for $90,000 with benefits. The recruiter tells you your total compensation is actually $115,000 because they're including the value of health insurance, 401k match, paid time off, and other perks. Sounds pretty good, right? You're getting $115,000 worth of value. Except, here's the thing. That $25,000 in benefits isn't actually worth $25,000 to you as an individual. Let's break it down. They're valuing your health insurance at $12,000 a year. That's what it costs them to provide it. But if you had to buy it yourself, you could get a decent individual plan for maybe $6,000 to $8,000. So the actual value to you is less than half of what they're claiming. The 401k match is worth something, sure. If they match up to 4% and you contribute 4%, that's $3,600. That's real money, I'll give them that. But you only get it if you contribute first, which reduces your take-home pay. Paid time off, they value it at your daily rate. If you make $90,000 and get 15 days off, they claim that's worth $5,200. But here's the thing. You're not actually getting extra pay for those days. You're just not getting paid less for not working them. It's not additional compensation. It's standard compensation structured differently. When you actually calculate the real cash value of these benefits to you as an individual, that $115,000 total compensation package is more like $100,000 to $105,000 in real value. But wait, it gets worse, because there are also hidden costs that come with these jobs that nobody talks about. A study from FlexJobs found that the average American professional spends about $4,200 per year on work-related expenses that aren't reimbursed. This includes things like professional clothing, dry cleaning, commuting costs beyond what you'd normally drive, lunches out because there's no time to pack, coffee meetings, professional development, networking events, and gifts for colleagues. That $90,000 salary, after you subtract the real cost of going to work every day, you're looking at more like $88,800 in actual value. And if you're in a job that requires you to maintain a certain image, like client-facing roles in finance, law, and consulting, these costs can easily double. I talked to a junior associate at a law firm making $120,000 who calculated that she spends $11,000 a year on work wardrobe, dry cleaning, makeup, hair, nails, and professional appearance maintenance, because that's the expectation in her office. Nobody includes that in the cost-benefit analysis when you're accepting the job. The benefits illusion is companies shifting compensation from cash, which is flexible and you control, to benefits, which are inflexible and they control, while claiming it's the same value. It's not.
So after all this doom and gloom, you're probably thinking, okay, Ben, I get it. Everything is terrible. What am I supposed to do about it? Here's the thing. I'm not telling you this to make you depressed. I'm telling you this so you can make informed decisions. Because once you understand the game, you can stop playing by their rules and start playing by yours. Let me give you what I call the real wealth formula. It's absurdly simple, but most people never do the math. Real wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about this equation. Real wealth equals take-home income minus fixed expenses times years until financial freedom. Let me break that down because this is important. Take-home income is what actually hits your bank account after all taxes and deductions, not your gross salary, what you actually get. Fixed expenses are the costs you can't easily reduce: rent, mortgage, car payments, insurance, minimum debt payments, the stuff you're locked into. The difference between those two numbers is your actual financial breathing room. That's what you can save, invest, or use to build wealth. And then you multiply that by how many years you have until you want to be financially free, however you define that. Retirement, semi-retirement, working because you want to, not because you have to. Let me show you how this plays out with two different people. Person A makes $100,000 gross in San Francisco, takes home $65,000 after taxes, has fixed expenses of $52,000, rent, car, insurance, minimum debt payments. That's $13,000 per year of wealth-building capacity. Over 30 years, assuming modest investment returns, that's about $1.1 million accumulated. Person B, who makes 35% less on paper, ends up 73% wealthier because they optimized the formula. They minimized the denominator, fixed expenses, rather than maximizing the numerator, gross income. This is the fundamental insight that changes everything. The path to wealth isn't just about earning more. It's about optimizing the gap between what you earn and what you're forced to spend. And here's where this gets really practical. You have way more control over your expenses than you do over your income. Negotiating a 20% raise is hard and might take years. Reducing your fixed expenses by 20% could be done in 6 months by moving to a cheaper apartment, refinancing your car, or cutting subscriptions. The real wealth formula tells you where to focus your energy. And for most people, especially those already earning decent incomes, the highest return on effort comes from reducing fixed costs, not from grinding for the next promotion. So let's talk about how you actually escape the invisible cage, because knowing you're trapped isn't the same as getting free. Here's what I recommend, and I've seen this work for dozens of people I've talked to. Step 1. Calculate your real numbers. Sit down this week and actually run your version of the real wealth formula. What's your actual take-home? What are your actual fixed expenses? What's the gap? Most people have never done this math, and they're making career decisions blind. Step 2, identify your biggest trap. Is it geographical? Are you paying a massive premium to live in an expensive city for a job that could be done remotely? Is it prestige? Are you accepting lower pay because the company name looks good? Is it specialization? Have you pigeonholed yourself into a narrow field with limited opportunities? Is it lifestyle creep? Are your expenses rising as fast as your income? Figure out which trap has you. You probably have more than one, but there's usually one primary culprit. Step 3, create a flexibility fund. This is different from an emergency fund. An emergency fund covers you if something goes wrong. A flexibility fund gives you the power to make different choices. Try to build up 12 months of bare bones expenses, not your current expenses, your bare bones, if I had to, I could live on this expenses. This is your escape velocity. This is what gives you the power to negotiate, to turn down jobs that don't serve you, to take calculated risks. Most people are trapped because they live paycheck to paycheck at their current lifestyle level. They can't afford to make changes because they can't afford any disruption to their income. The flexibility fund breaks that cycle. Step 4, make one deliberate downgrade. I know this sounds crazy, but hear me out. Pick one element of your lifestyle that's more expensive than it needs to be and deliberately downgrade it. Not because you have to, but because you're choosing to. Maybe it's moving to a slightly less trendy neighborhood and saving $400 a month. Maybe it's selling the car you bought to impress people and getting something reliable but boring, cutting your payment from $550 to $250. Maybe it's leaving the prestigious company for a less impressive one that pays more and demands less. The goal isn't to make yourself miserable. The goal is to prove to yourself that you can control this, that you're not locked in, that you have agency. Once you've done it once, the golden handcuffs start to feel less permanent. Step 5, optimize for options, not income. When you're evaluating your next career move, don't just look at the salary. Look at the total package through the lens of freedom. Does this job require you to live in an expensive city? Does it require you to maintain a certain appearance or lifestyle? Can you do it remotely? Does it give you transferable skills or trap you in a specialization? How many hours does it actually require? What's the hourly rate, not just the annual salary? A job that pays $20,000 less but gives you flexibility, remote work options, fewer required hours, and transferable skills might be 10 times more valuable than the higher-paying job that chains you to a desk in an expensive city for 60 hours a week. Look, here's the truth. The system is designed to keep you running. Companies benefit when you take the high-paying job in the expensive city, when you value prestige over pay, when you specialize so much that you can't leave, when you increase your lifestyle to match your income. You staying on the treadmill serves their interests, not yours. But you're not powerless here. You can do the math, you can see the trap, and once you see it, you can choose differently. The invisible cage is only invisible if you're not looking for it. Now you know what to look for. Success isn't about having the most impressive job title or the highest salary number. It's about building a life where you have options, where you're not one layoff away from disaster, where you're accumulating actual wealth instead of just accumulating expensive obligations. You can have that, but you have to stop playing their game and start playing yours. If this video changed how you think about your career and your money, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. I put out content every week that challenges the conventional wisdom about success and money. I'm Ben, and I'll see you in the next one.